TV7 Israel News is made possible thanks to your generous donations. Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News, broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, 3 Hamas operatives who've been identified as responsible for the murder of Maia and Rina Dee in the terror attack on April 7th were eliminated by Israeli special operations units following a vigorous gun battle earlier this morning. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, during a meeting with President Bashar Assad in Damascus, praised Syria for its continued hostile approach against the United States and Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tells a U.S. bi-partisan congressional delegation visiting Jerusalem that Iran is 50 times North Korea. A tense quiet presided over Israel's southern border with the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip. However, tensions continue to run high in the West Bank districts of Judea, the Jordan Valley, and, most notably, the Samaria region. IDF, ISA, and Border Police Special Operations Forces conducted extensive counter-terror activities in the aforementioned districts overnight and early this morning as part of Operation Wastebreaker, during the course of which 15 suspected terror operatives were successfully apprehended. Moreover, as part of an ISA-led mission, which essentially included pinpoint intelligence on the location of the terrorists responsible for the murder of Maia and Rina Dee, who were killed on April 7th, Border Police and IDF Special Operations units closed in on the terrorists' hideout in the heart of the old city of Nablus. The 3 terrorists, including 2 who were directly responsible for the April 7th terror attack and 1 who aided their escape, refused to surrender. Instead, the 3 attempted to flee the scene while opening fire and hurling explosives toward the Israeli forces, who responded with live fire, eliminating all 3 terrorists. And while no injuries were reported among the Israeli troops, Django, a K9 dog belonging to the Yamam unit, reportedly sacrificed itself to protect the Israeli force when the Palestinian terrorists opened fire towards them. The Border Police Special Operations Yamam unit subsequently released a statement praising Django for years of service in which it partook in hundreds of counter-terror operations that brought about the elimination and arrest of countless terror suspects. Meanwhile, in the Palestinian town of Hawara, a Palestinian woman stabbed and likely wounded an IDF soldier who was stationed on the motorway, which passes through the highly contentious town. Consequently, the soldier managed to push the terrorist backwards and, together with another soldier at the scene, opened fire, neutralizing the assailant.
Earlier today, while my friends and I guarded a military position while conducting security of motor arteries on the Palestinian side of Hawara sector, a female terrorist arrived with a knife and stabbed one of the soldiers at the position, who immediately pushed her away. The wounded soldier and I opened fire toward her and succeeded in neutralizing her.
Subsequently, both the soldier and terrorist were treated at the scene by Israeli medical teams and were separately taken to hospital for further treatment. Turning to the capital of Israel's northern neighbor Syria, where Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi was hosted in Damascus by Syrian President Bashar Assad in a first such meeting by an Iranian head of state in over a decade. Following their face-to-face meeting, Raisi and Assad held a signing ceremony of a new bilateral Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, which aims to substantively deepen cooperation between Tehran and Damascus. In subsequent remarks, President Raisi praised the Assad regime and its forces for managing to prevail against Israel, the United States, and the Syrian opposition and Sunni Muslim terror groups, as he put it, which he referred to as takfiri, an Arabic derogatory vis-à-vis Muslims who were supposedly led astray.
ایستادگی کردند و مقاومت.
They resisted, and for their resistance we should praise the dear Syrian people. We should also commend the Syrian government for its resistance against the greedy and brutal behavior of the Takfiri movements and the U.S., and for not allowing the Zionist regime to reach its goals in this country.
Following his meeting with President Assad, Iranian President Raisi also held a meeting with leaders of Palestinian terror groups, among others, during which he seized the opportunity to reaffirm Tehran's unwavering support to all of the Palestinian factions, which are keen on confronting Israel by violent methods. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hosted a bipartisan U.S. congressional delegation led by the House of Representatives Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence Chairman Michael Turner, during which the Israeli premier responded to a question regarding the growing threat which emanates from the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Iran is 50 North Koreas, okay? It is not merely a neighborhood bully like the dynasty that rules North Korea. This is an ideological force that views us, Israel, as the small Satan and views you as the great Satan. And to have North Korea, or rather Iran, being able to threaten every city in the United States with nuclear blackmail is a changing of history.
Meanwhile, in Washington, State Department Deputy Spokesman Vedant Patel responded to the deepening relations between Syria and Iran, including the state visit by President Raisi to Damascus.
The Iranian regime and the Assad regime continuing to deepen their ties should be of great concern to not just our allies and partners and countries in the region, but also the world broadly. These are two regimes that have continued to partake in malign, destabilizing activities, not just in their immediate countries, but also in the region broadly. We continue to believe, Michelle, that we will not normalize relations with the Assad regime, and we do not support others normalizing with Damascus either. And we've made this abundantly clear to our partners. The U.S. believes that a political solution that is outlined in UN Security Council Resolution 2254 is the only viable solution to this conflict in Syria.
It is important to explain that UN Security Council Resolution 2254 reiterates, among others, that the only sustainable solution to the current crisis in Syria is through the inclusive and Syrian-led political process that meets the legitimate aspirations of the Syrian people, with a view to full implementation of the Geneva Communiqué of 30 June 2012, which calls for the establishment of an inclusive transitional governing body with full executive powers, which could include members of the present Syrian government, but also had to include representatives of the opposition. Nevertheless, with the proactive backing from both Moscow and Tehran, Damascus ultimately prevailed on most battlefronts throughout Syria, and with Iran's recent Chinese-brokered arrangement with Saudi Arabia, the Arab League has abandoned the Western approach to the Syrian conflict and is now looking to reinstate Damascus into the Arab fold. The latest meeting, which TV7 reported on this matter earlier this week, took place on Monday, May 1st.
Everything that is related to the Syrian crisis will be dealt with, but in a process that will surely be long. Today is the beginning. The process continues, and a lot of work is needed. There must be steps on the ground that lead to an improvement in the reality in which Syria and the Syrians live. There must be steps that take us to solve this problem and proceed towards a comprehensive solution for it.
While Jordan's top diplomat underscored that the process of returning Syria into the Arab fold will take time, this latest multilateral initiative has raised concerns among Western powers, including the United States in particular.
We have conveyed our concerns about the May 1 meeting in Jordan to Jordan and others, and although we don't agree with that the Assad regime merited this kind of statement, we note that Jordan and others have incorporated some of the United States' key priorities in this process. But I will reiterate again, we don't support normalization with Damascus, and we do not support others normalizing this as well.
It is interesting to know that while the Assad regime is eager to revitalize its relations with the Arab world, Damascus is evidently less in a rush to normalize its ties with Ankara. After a four-way meeting that was held by the defense ministers and intelligence chiefs of Syria, Turkey, Iran, and Russia, under Moscow's umbrella, of course, Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Çavuşoğlu revealed last weekend that efforts were being made to hold a subsequent foreign ministerial during the first 10 days of May. Nevertheless, according to Turkish sources who spoke to TV7 on condition of anonymity, it has been revealed that the Assad regime is deliberately stalling the talks, with prospects of another meeting taking place prior to the May 14th election in Turkey highly unlikely. The Turkish sources, who are familiar with the four-way discussions, further noted that Damascus was likely waiting to see whether President Recep Tayyip Erdogan would remain in power, since it is evidently not eager to grant the Turkish leader any pre-election achievements that could boost his chances of retaining Ankara's seat of power. Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. If you're blessed by our productions and would like to help support TV7 Israel's ongoing operations, which are exclusively donation-based, please consider making a financial contribution. You can do so at www.tv7israelnews.com. Separately, I would like to encourage you to unceasingly pray for our persecuted brothers and sisters worldwide, as well as for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. I'm Jonathan Essen, wishing you an Erev Mevorach, and God willing, we'll see you again tomorrow at the same time.